Hello, friends. Welcome to Islington Listens, wisdom from a community of faith that doesn't think the same, vote the same, or love the same, but we are trying our best to follow in the way of Jesus with compassion and hope.
Today, I would like to take you back 100 years to speak about one woman who played a pivotal role in the United Church of Canada and whose impact continues to this day. Her name is Lydia Gruchy, a young woman in Saskatchewan who started on her vocational path to become a teacher. But God had something else in mind for her, to accomplish abundantly far more than we can ask or imagine. In 1920, she graduated from the University of Saskatchewan, gold medalist. That same year, Dr. Edmund Oliver, the principal of St. Andrew's Presbyterian College, became Lydia's mentor and advocate. He was a visionary who recognized the potential of women not only to work in the church, but to serve in ministerial leadership. She was offered a $300 scholarship and became the first woman to enroll in a Presbyterian theology college and the first woman to complete a theology degree. In 1923, she graduated with male classmates, some of whom went on to become ministers. But as a woman, she wasn't eligible for ordination. Well, not yet. How did Lydia respond? I just got on with it. Her first mission was to work with the Doukhobor community, a religious sect from Russia, which kept their girls at home. No schooling for them. Soon enough, Lydia reported their absenteeism to the powers that be, and within a few weeks, the girls were brought to school. Imagine taking on the challenge of a classroom or a class that grew from 30 to 72 students in a one-room schoolhouse, all grades, 2 teachers, and lots of youthful energy. She was delighted. The girls were delighted. Perhaps one of them might have dared to imagine that one day she would become a teacher, just like her teacher, Miss Gruchy. It was during this time period the question for ordination for women was raised at the first General Council of the newly formed United Church of Canada. After much consideration and discussions, it was decided in 1928 that women could serve as deaconesses, but not ordained ministers. For the next 8 years, Lydia was appointed to full-time work for the Home Mission Board of the United Church in northeastern Saskatchewan. These are the Depression years. Saskatchewan, a vast territory, neighbors separated by acres of farmland, a region with many new immigrants who couldn't speak English. Because of the shortage of ministers in the region, Lydia started to conduct Sunday worship services, preaching and teaching at different locations miles apart, often starting in the morning and ending with a 7:30 p.m. evening service. How did she travel between these charges each Sunday? I can't believe this. By horse, on dusty roads and cold, damp days. In the winter, by a horse-drawn sled. Yes, the day came when she could afford a car, a Model T Ford, but you can be sure there were no paved roads, or padded seats, or automatic transmissions, nor CAA to fix a flat tire. The superintendent of Northern Saskatchewan Missions wrote of his experience observing her work. On the Sunday I visited her, the 4 preaching services which she held that day involved a drive of over 50 miles on roads that are very rough at best. But Miss Gruchy scarcely ever misses an appointment. Dr. Oliver, her mentor from St. Andrew's College, described the Sunday he spent with her as, quote, one of the most strenuous days I have ever experienced. Her days were filled with ministerial and community activities, explorers, trail rangers, CGIT for the children, clothing and food drives for families in need. Lydia taught Bible stories at the end of each school day several times a week, as if she didn't have enough to do. And she regularly visited parishioners in their homes, relating easily with the families and the women of the house. Lydia said there were a few times when she even picked up a tea towel to help dry the dishes while they talked. Now, you might not ask Maya to do that because you might have a dishwasher at home, but that's what she did. One of her parishioners described Lydia as a tiny person. She was only 5 feet tall. That's what my height is. Cheerful with a hearty laugh and the warmest heart. She wouldn't sit still, and anything she did was done well. Throughout these years, Lydia stated that ordination for her was necessary, not for its own sake, but to the betterment and effectiveness of her work of ministry. That is, because without ordination, she was not authorized to perform sacraments, baptisms, and communion. She would have to invite a neighboring ordained minister, often a former classmate, who had to leave his own charge and travel the distance to perform these sacraments for her congregants. The minister started to proclaim, "Why doesn't Lydia do it?" Dr. Oliver, her mentor, and many other prominent men and women were continually advocating for her ordination. Every 2 years, her parishioners, men and women, petitioned the Saskatchewan Conference for her ordination. After all, Lydia Gruchy was their minister. In 1934, they sent a letter demanding that if the conference didn't ordain her, the church would. Finally, on November 4th, 1936, the celebration of her ordination took place. In his sermon, Reverend George Dorey commended now Reverend Lydia Gruchy. She has proved that there is no work too hard and no duty too exacting for her. She comes after a probation period far longer and trials far more testing than have been given the candidates of the sterner sex. Her probation period lasted 13 years. And I'm sure we might be thinking, that's not fair. And just because she's a woman? By living out her call, one task at a time, 1 year at a time, people were watching her, supporting her, some even opposing her. Thankfully, minds were changed, policies were changed, hearts were changed. Lydia Gruchy, at 42 years of age, became the first woman to be ordained in the United Church of Canada, which opened the door for unmarried women, and much later, in 1965, married women to be ordained. Reverend Lois Wilson was that first married ordained minister who became the first woman moderator of the United Church of Canada, and later in life achieved the honor of being appointed as a senator in Canada. As COVID lockdowns were just coming to an end a few years ago, my spiritual mentor made a suggestion for my next steps. Why don't you attend Emmanuel College? You can be quite assured I didn't imagine at my age, in my 70s, that I would be a student at Emmanuel College in the Master of Theology, Spirituality, and the Arts program. I wasn't even sure I could handle the academic workload. but I've completed 13 of 20 courses towards the degree. I couldn't be happier. I've never been busier, totally in my element. For me, God has provided abundantly, far more than I could ask or imagine. And I like to imagine that there were many people in Reverend Gruchy's churches and schoolrooms who were influenced by her leadership and encouraged by her example to pursue their own vocational paths against all odds, whatever comes their way. There's much more to tell of the story of Reverend Gruchy's achievements after ordination, her work with deaconesses and missionary training, her advocacy for church pensions, not just for ordained ministers, her many years as an ordained minister to several other Saskatchewan communities until she retired. Thank you, Reverend Lydia Gruchy. Today, women ministers in the United Church of Canada make up just over 50% of the roster. The United Church of Canada, and specifically Islington United Church, have been the benefactors of your life of service. I would like to name some of the women leaders who have served and who are serving our church and its people so faithfully. Audrey McKim, a deaconess, Reverend Linda Wheeler, Reverend Kathy Diltz, Reverend Janice Landell, Reverend Sheila Murray, Reverend Adele Halliday, Reverend Dr. Carmen Lansdowne, and of course, our own Reverend Maya Landell. To the next generation of visionaries and spiritual leaders, some of whom are sitting right here within our midst, I wonder how God will empower you and each of us to do more abundantly than we can ask or imagine in unexpected and surprising ways for Christ's glory and our community of faith. Amen.
Thanks for listening, friends. For other ways to connect, go to islingtonunited.org. May God's wisdom and love keep finding you.